everybody, it's Julie, Kansas City girl in a Colorado world. Today is October 18th, 2024, and this is Flosstube number 126. And it has only been about 3 weeks, just a little over 3 weeks since my last video, but I have so much stitching to show. I have finished 11 things since my last video, and I've fully finished several of them. And yeah, I have a lot of stitching to show. I don't know, I've been stitching up a storm, like to the detriment of, you know, other things probably that I should be doing, but oh well. So anyway, I have a lot to show. First, I have 2 new releases for Hemlock Rye Stitchery, my design company. So I actually just like super randomly came up with this idea one morning. It was like a Saturday morning. I think I was sitting and stitching and the idea just occurred to me. I ran to Instagram to check in with my friend Lolly, Lollipop Stitches. She does Flosstube and she's on Instagram. And I've actually met Lolly in person at Stitch North last April. Anyway, I had this idea and I immediately thought of Lolly. So I ran over and was like, Lolly, what do you think? Like, this is my idea. You know, and we kind of had a little brainstorming session, because, I had this idea to do my, I don't know what you'd call this, name series, with famous, like, horror movie villains. So I've done before a Jane Austen and a Little Women version of this pattern. Actually, I have the Jane Austen one right here so I can show you. So I've done this as like a very prim and proper little series. This is the Bennett sisters, if you're interested. So I've done it this way, like these nice little respectable cross stitches. But I had this idea of horror movie villains in the same style. So I ran over to ask Lolly, like, you know, who needs to be included, because I'm not actually like a big horror movie fan, but she is. So we brainstormed and came up with like, you know, people won't necessarily agree, but these were kind of like the big names we came up with. Obviously, some people would have a different list. So it's Freddie and Jason and Michael and Chucky and Hannibal. I stitched this on an 18 count Ada. This is from Jody at Steel City Stitchers. This is one of her fabrics that I got in a box, and I can't remember if it was like a witchy stitcher. Why can't I say that? Witchy Stitcher or a Black Needle Society. I can't remember, but I got it in a box. And it's one of her, it's her blood spatter fabric. I don't know if it has a name. I'm sure it does. I just don't know what it is. And I stitched this with mostly DMC 310. And then I did use a DMC metallic for the axes and the knives and the border, to give a little sparkle to it. And this is called I Wanna Be Your Final Girl. So this is my new release. I stitched this up in, I think it might have been a day and then a little bit like to finish it up the next day, but it's a super quick stitch. So while I was brainstorming and designing this and kind of like talking with Lolly about it, I suddenly had this idea. I was like, wait, what about vampires? This same thing, but like vampires instead of horror movie villains. So then I had to brainstorm like top tier famous vampires. So I designed a second pattern, and this also stitched really quick, like a day or two. And so this one is called I Know What You Are. So this is Dracula and Lestat and Angel and Bill and Edward. And of course, Edward sparkles. So this is again DMC, mostly DMC 310, and then a couple of DMC metallics. These patterns are super easy to customize. Like if you want to do them with a different color or you don't want to use metallics, you could just use DMC. I'll actually insert a picture because Lolly stitched this one up. I sent it to her early and she stitched it up, and she used Roxy Floss Co. flosses. So she didn't use any metallics, and hers looks so great. And I think she might have used Jody fabric as well. So anyway, this is I Want to Be Your Final Girl, and I Know What You Are. So I've already gotten grief from a couple of friends for like not putting like they were like, well, what about Damon and Stefan? And I'm like, look, I can't put every vampire of my heart on this pattern because they won't all fit. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you disagree with with my choices, but it was just a fun silly little pattern. So those are my 2 new releases. You can get, I'll link below. You can go to my Etsy and grab those if you're interested. They are, like I said, they're really quick stitches, like a day or 2, maybe a couple days if you don't have as much stitching time as I do. But they're really quick stitches and just really fun and like seasonal little fun stitches. So those are, I think the only ones, yeah, those are like the only ones that are my designs. So what else did I stitch? Well, so many things. So I finished the stitching on this in April. So this is Zodiac Girls Aries by Nora Corbett. I finished the stitching, but I didn't do the beading at that time. And I don't know why. I kept meaning I'll get to it. And then I just never did. So this has just been sitting out since April with all the beads and the beading mat and like just ready to go. And I just like kept putting it off. So I finally was like, all right, come on, like just finish this. So I finished all the beads and fully finished her. She is so blingy. Like a lot of these Zodiac girls have like a lot of beads, but for some reason hers just seem like extra like spectacular. I mean, she's just beautiful. So I stitched her with all the called for floss. It's like a couple Karen water lilies, mostly DMC, the called for beads. The only thing I didn't do called for was the fabric. This is a 28 count Monaco that I dyed myself. So you can see for the model, she's on just like a simple beige fabric. So I didn't change her skin tone. I didn't change any colors. I just put her on this fabric. She's so beautiful though. I love her. I love her. So if you've been watching me for a while, you may remember that I was going to do all of the Zodiac girls like in their actual season. And I did, like Aries I did do. I started Taurus and I started Gemini within their season. Did not finish them. And then I never did start Cancer, Leo, Virgo, or Libra. I'm sorry. I haven't. I mean, someday, maybe next year. I still want to do it. I still want to do all 12. But I did kind of fall off the wagon on these. But I have 3 of these fully finished. I have Aquarius and Pisces fully finished. And now I have Aries fully finished. And then I have 2 started. And I have 7 to go. They actually don't take that long to stitch. They're quite small for Mira's or Nora's. They're small. I had other things going on, so sorry. Okay, so I got my ink circles round robin back. So I had stitched 1/4 of this back earlier in the year. It made it around my round robin group, which consists of Tara, Wild Women Crafts, Miriam, Motorumi Crafts, and Julie at Julie and Stitches. They are all 3 Flosstubers. They are all 3 on Instagram. I will link them below. So I still need to finish, I need to do that final section on Miriam's piece. hers is 3/4 done. I have it. I need to stitch my bit and then send it to her as a finish. So, but Tara sent me mine, so mine is finished. So, I stitched, like I said, I stitched 1/4 of this, and then the others stitched the rest, and oh, it's so pretty. And ink circles, round robins, such a brilliant idea, because with these designs, they're so beautiful and impactful, but I don't like to do, I don't always like to do repetitive stitching. I don't mind repetitive stitching like a Carolyn Manning, but I don't like fiddly repetitive stitching, and these are a little fiddly. You got to really pay attention to what you're doing. Doing 1/4 of these takes me like a day or two. They're not like these smaller designs. They're not that, I think they're all like 115 by 115. They're not that big. And so just doing my little section and then sending it off and letting someone else do the repetitive stitching for me is just so brilliant. So this is on a 32 count linen. It's from Nicholas Flamel. I don't know if you can still get linen from him. I think he kind of like pops in and out sometimes, but I think I got it on Etsy. It was like years back. And it was a set of 3 linens called the Bronte Sisters. And it was this greeny one, a blue one, and then like a purple gray one. And they weren't named individually. It was just the Bronte Sisters. So that's where I got this fabric. It's beautiful and it's really nice to stitch on. And then I used a Gloriana, and I think it's called Highland Garden Dark, because there's a regular Highland Garden and then there's a Highland Garden Dark, and I think I used the one that's dark. It's a silk. It is gorgeous. You can see the variegation. This is I don't think I said the pattern. This is Reflections of Scotland. I wanted to do this to commemorate my trip to Scotland in 2022. And because, or was it 2020? It was 2022. It doesn't matter. But anyway, because I was doing the Reflections of Scotland, I wanted to, I liked that the floss was called Highland Gardens, that it was like also Scotland. So that's where I came up with that color palette. Here is how the original looked from Ink Circles. So here's my version, and it just came out absolutely gorgeous, and I love it, and I cannot wait to display that. I've got a few round robins, Ink Circles round robins in the works. I cannot commit to another just yet, because I'm looking at, I have 3 to stitch on and another one to start. Yeah, I can't commit to any more. Okay, so then since my last video, I did finish this Sprouting Lupine. This is called Witching Hour Nature Walk. I love these patterns from Sprouting Lupine. They're really small. They stitch up really fast. They just use DMC, and they're just beautiful. So I used the called for DMC. This is on a 32 count Birds of a Feather linen. It was like a piece I found at like a craft thrift store, and it was just this like skinny little like remnant. And so I've had it in my stash forever, like waiting to figure out what to stitch on it, because it had to be something small, because the fabric was only like an inch wider than this. I stitched this with like almost no margin. But anyway, this fit perfectly, and I think it looks so good on this fabric, and I'm just in love with this. The color palette, the design, it's so great. And this is a little book box that I got at either Michael's or Joann's, and I think I got it last Halloween, and I probably paid, you know, it was probably like $5.99, and then I got it like 50% off or something, so I probably paid a couple dollars for it. I grabbed another one at the same time, and I finished a different nature walk from Sprouting Lupine on that one, which I will show at a different time. But yeah, I just love this. I just couldn't believe that I stitched it and it just fit perfectly. It was like, how did that happen? It fits perfectly on here, and I love it. And it's such an easy like finish, and it will like stand up on its own, and it's just, this color palette is just incredible. I'm obsessed with this. I love this so much. We're not done yet. We've got more. We've got so many more. Okay. I finished my Owl Forest kit. This was called Snailhouse Pumpkin. I think there's 4 of these, and this one is the pumpkin one. So this is the fabric that came in the kit, the floss that came in the kit. One thing I'll say, if you get Owl Forest kits, like definitely you want to start in the middle because they don't always have a lot of margin. I mean, this one I think is like adequate, but I would say this is probably a 2-inch margin. So if you were to start like 2.5 inches or 3 inches in, you might not be happy with, you know, with how it fits. And I know one of my friends was doing a much larger piece and she didn't start in the middle, and her piece like did not fit on the piece of fabric. To be fair, it could have been a miscut because I don't know if it would have fit. Even if she like did start in the middle, it just might not have fit. But I know it definitely didn't fit with her like starting on the side. So just my little advice to you, if you're doing an Owl Forest kit, I would start in the middle in case you don't have enough margin. This is the floss that came in the kit. Their floss is wonderful. And this was really fun to stitch, and I love it. So that's Snailhouse Pumpkin. Okay, so then my friend Heather, Link is my homeboy, she was like, hey, I'm gonna get out my old whip from like way back when. And we had talked about it before, and I was like, when you get that out, let me know, because I think I'll get mine out. And I did, and I started working on it, and I was like, I can finish this. So I just went gangbusters on it until it was done. So the whip is Draculas Confession by Lindy Stitches. So this actually came with 2 different designs, and everyone I know did the smaller one. So I decided to be contrary and do the larger one. And so I did I bought like the pattern and the kit with the floss. So I used all the called for floss. And then I stitched this on a 32 count Fortnite fabrics. You can't get that anymore. I can't remember what the color was called. It might have been called Grandma Stuffin', but I'm not sold on that. I don't know for sure. Anyway, I stitched this and I found a frame for this. So at the thrift store, and it fits great. And I love it. So this is Draculas Confession. Like I said, I did the horizontal bigger one. It's got like the bat and the leaves are the same, but the words are different or something. I can't remember exactly what's different about it. Well, yeah, this one has the same saying on it. It's just in smaller font. So, and you don't have, this one doesn't have these doodads, which were a total pain to stitch. They weren't hard to stitch. There was just no like rhythm to it. So, anyway, this is a quote from Dracula. Dracula says this to Jonathan Harker, like really early on in the novel. I love the shade and the shadow and would be alone with my thoughts when I may. And I actually reread Dracula while I was stitching this. Well, I listened to it on Audible. It was actually a really good production. It was on Audible Plus. They have like a full cast for the narration. It's got Daisy Edgar Jones and Theo James and then some other people I didn't know. So anyway, I love this. I think it turned out so great. We're not done with finishes yet. Can you believe it? There's more. I think I have 4 more. I'm not done. I'm not done. Okay, so I finished Bent Creek Candy Corn of Mischief. So this was a little kit I found at the thrift store, brand new, unopened, and it was like $3, and I was so excited. So it came with this, I think it's a 18 count burlap that when you stitch over 2, it becomes a 9 count. And it came with the pearl cotton. It's just DMC, but it came with the fabric and the cotton. So that stitched up really quick. It didn't take long at all. The eyes are all French knots. They're not too bad. Mine aren't too bad. So that's Candy Corn of Mischief. I've seen this pattern before and I've always liked this pattern, but I did not realize that it called for like a big like pearl cotton stitch. I mean, you could totally just stitch it with DMC on a smaller count. It would still look great. But I didn't even realize it was like this pearl cotton, but it was really fun to stitch with, and it went really quick. So that is the Candy Corn of Mischief. Okay, so then Heather, Link is my homeboy, had a birthday. And so we decided we wanted to do a birthday start, and we had been like oohing and ahhing over some Flossy Fox patterns. So Flossy Fox, that's hard to say. Flossy Fox Shop. She has the cutest designs. They're so colorful, and like she gets so much detail and like these little bitty like bits. And so we were like, oh my God, look how cute this is. And then I was like, oh, you know what? She had a pattern in the last Just Cross Stitch magazine, not the Halloween issue, like the regular fall issue. I was like, she had a pattern in that, and it is really cute. And Heather was like, oh, I have that. So we decided to start that. So this is Enchanted Autumn Cabin. I started it and I just kept going to the finish. This is all the called for DMC, and this is on a little piece of 32 count linen. I don't know. I think it was from a Starlight Stitchery box, so it's like a one-off. I mean, it's mostly just black, but there was like you could see like a little bit of variegation in there. But mostly it's just a black fabric. But yeah, that is the called for DMC. And you can see what there's so much detail in so few little stitches. This did take a while to stitch just because of all the color changing. It's definitely like very intense to stitch these, because you have to change colors a lot, but the impact is so great. It looks so wonderful. So that's Enchanted Autumn Cabin. That is in the fall issue of Just Cross Stitch magazine, and it is adorable. This little fox and the dragon. I love it. I love the color palette. Like, it's just, I love it. It came out so cute. I'm not done. I'm almost done. I have 2 more finishes. So, okay. If you've been watching me for a while, you might remember from either when I originally stitched on it or from whip parades. I started years ago. I started, I decided I was going to do a Mill Hill Halloween Village. I was inspired by Mrs. Oh So Crafty, who I don't think does Flosstubes anymore. Mrs. Oh So Crafty, Stephanie, had done a Christmas village, a Mill Hill Christmas village, where she took all the little buttons and beads, Mill Hills, for the Christmas shops, and she put them all on one piece of fabric and made a little village. And so I decided to do that with the Halloween. There aren't as many options, but there are enough. The Christmas ones, you get, like, there are so many options for the Christmas Mill Hill buttons and beads, like tons. They've done like all the shops. Halloween, not as many, but anyway. Okay, all that to say, I had stitched the Haunted Library. I dyed this fabric myself. It's a 32 count linen. So I had stitched the Haunted Library, and then I was going to put 8 more and do this village. And I never got back to it, and I let it sit forever because it's very intimidating. It's a very big, daunting project, and I was intimidated, and I never got back to it because I didn't think I could realistically ever finish it. So I got to thinking, and I'm like, look, okay, I have 8 more of these to do. And they take, I think this one took me like almost a week. So I'm like, they take like around a week. If I committed to do like 1 a month next year, then I could finish this by Halloween. Because I only have to do 8, and I have 10 months. And so that was my thought. And then Amy, my friend Amy, Gable Stitcher, was like, well, why don't you go ahead and do one now, just so you can see like how long they really take you, because you know, 4 years ago, you were a different stitcher. And I was like, that's fair. That's fair. I was like, I think they're going to take about a week, but let's see. So, and I wanted to work on it anyway, because I was excited about it again. So I got out the next one. I finished it in 4 days. So this is Opera House. So 2 of 9 are done. Now this one, I think this one took me 5 or 6 days. This one took me 4. To be fair, it was like a weekend. I stitched a ton. Also, this one just has more like block stitching, a little less confetti. So I still think like they're going to take me probably 5 or 6 days, but I proved I could do it. I'm excited about it again. And now I only have 7 to do next year before Halloween. So I think that's going to be a finish before the end of 2025. There's so many beads on these. They're so cool. I've already got the rest. Like, I've had them purchased for, like, I bought them at the time, so I have all of them. I've got my layout figured out, so I'm like ready to go. Okay, one more finish, and then I have a couple whips. Okay, one more finish. So, Nikki at Nikki's Creations, she sent me her 2 new like seasonal patterns. I've met Nikki before. I was able to take a class with her in Longmont, I think it was. So she lives in Italy, but when she flies over for Nashville Needlework Market, she like extends her trip, and she makes she makes a visit to like Colorado, and she usually does a little class with a stitching group here in Colorado. And so I was able to, it was like, I think it was 2020. I think it was right before everything shut down. It was in February. I was able to do a class with her, which was wonderful. She is the kindest person. She is so wonderful, and I love her designs. I've always loved her designs. And so anyway, she was like, hey, are you interested? And I was like, yes, absolutely. So I've stitched one of them. I still need to stitch the other. I love the other one too. So this is Halloween Hen by Nikki's Creations. It's just with DMC. She almost always uses DMC. This is a 32 count linen that I dyed myself. I did have to change just one thing. So this hen here was, it called for DMC. I think it was 840 or 841. And it's this one right here, but it just blended in a little bit too much with the fabric. So I went one shade lighter. So I think this is 844. But that's the only thing. The rest is the called for DMC. And it's still the same like tone. I just did it slightly lighter so it would pop off of my fabric a little better. And this is called Halloween Hen. So cute. The other one, and it stitched up really fast. I think this took me 2 nights. The other one is called Queen of Halloween Stitching. I'll pop in a picture. I love this one. Love it. So I want to get to that too. Okay, so, okay, that's it. That's all of the finishes. What else did I stitch on? How did I stitch on more than that? Is that not enough? I stitched on more. So, okay. I have wanted to start Mirabilia. It's falling out of the pattern. I've wanted to start Blackbird from Mirabilia, Nora Corbett. Literally since it was released. I bought it immediately. No, I didn't. I bought it at Bestitch Me. I was on the road. When this was released, I was on the road. And so I couldn't like buy it and ship it anywhere. And so I was like, okay, the next time I'm at a cross stitch store, I have to get that pattern. So I ended up going to Bestitch Me, which was wonderful. And I was like, Brandy, do you have the newer one, the Blackbird? She's like, yeah. So I bought it at Bestitch Me. That's right. Anyway, I love this since it came out. And I dyed fabric for this back in April, I think. And I meant to start it in April and I didn't get to it. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to start it in May, like Mira May. I didn't get to it. So then I was like, well, I might as well wait till the fall because like this pattern has fall vibes. So I finally was able to start it. It's so beautiful. So I loved this release like immediately, but then what really hooked me was Nora said she was inspired by Kathy from Wuthering Heights, and like was picturing her like out on the moors, and I was like, oh, say less, Nora. So I dyed my own fabric, like I said, back in April. And I'm obsessed with it. It's big. She is big. She is a really big Mirabilia. She is 272 wide by 247 high. Nora designs all sorts of sizes of pretty ladies, but this is like a really big one. And that dress is enormous, but like, oh my God, it looks so great. So this is what I've been able to accomplish. I started in the center. So I'm over here, like right below her hand. I'm like in this area right here. So, it's mostly DMC, a couple Karen water lilies in there. And it's just absolutely stunning. And I love it. I love stitching on Mirabilias. I don't know why. They're just like comfort stitching to me. And I've said that before. I know. I'm sorry. I don't want to like just repeat myself, but, they're challenging enough. They keep my brain like engaged, but they're also like, you get some blocks of stitching so you can kind of go on one color, but then like before you get bored of that color, you get to switch to another color. And they're just, I don't know, they're just very comforting for me to stitch. So this fabric, it's not that different from like the called for, but it's got just a little more like depth and dimension to it. It's a little bit of like modeling and variegation, and I'm just really happy with it. And I think it's just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So I am so pleased with that one. She is big, but she is beautiful. Okay, so I was telling you about finding the Bent Creek kit at the thrift store. Well, I found two. So they had the Candy Corn of Mischief, and then they had Pumpkin of Leaf. I'm going to take it out of the bag because the bag is really, really shiny. So I found two kits. They were both $2.99. So I got Candy Corn of Mischief and I got Pumpkin of Leaves. So again, it came with the pearl cotton and the fabric. And I do just have a little start on this one. And this is just perfect car stitching because you can see it real well. So we had to go, I was riding along on some errand and I was like, I need something to stitch. I don't have anything. So I grabbed this kit and started it. So that's what I was able to do on like one like errand car ride. And then we're going up to Cheyenne tomorrow. So I'm going to take this for the car tomorrow. Cheyenne, Wyoming is only about 45-50 minutes from where we live in Fort Collins, so it's like closer than you would think. There used to be a cross stitch shop in Cheyenne, but it is not there any longer, unfortunately. Okay, so one last project. So Nuri at Shaded Stitchery had a birthday. Actually, her birthday is the same day as Heather's. So I wanted to do a new start, but I had so much going on. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to I'm going to get my whip out. So I had started Queen of Sorrows and Joys when the last season of Bridgerton was released. And so I decided to get that back out and stitch on that for Nuri's birthday. And I got 1,000 stitches in on it. And it is looking so lovely. So this is a piece of fabric that my friend Diana dyed. She does, she just will sometimes just dye fabric and then send it to friends because she's a wonderful human. And she'll just be like, I don't know, I'm going to send you some fabric, and it's like a surprise. So this was one that she did. And the floss is DMC Color Variations. and the color is 4220. So it's like a periwinkle lavender, like super pale lilac. It's really pretty, and it looks so good on this fabric, and I'm just obsessed with this. I think this looks so great. So I had like some of the alphabet done, and maybe like some of these done. So I got like more alphabet, and then I worked up, and I reached the top, and it's stitching up really fast. Like it really wouldn't take much to finish this. I'm just really glad I got it back out and had another opportunity to work on this. So this is Queen of Sorrows and Joys. Nuri designed this as like kind of like an homage to Queen Charlotte from the Bridgerton series. And so that's why I had started this back when the season 3 came out. And so I got some more in on this, and hopefully I will get this out and work on this before season 4 comes out. If not, I will definitely get it out for season 4. Absolutely. Okay. So that is all the stitching, and isn't that enough? Are you not entertained? Like that was so much. Okay, so I'm done talking about stitching. I'm going to talk a little bit about books. And if you don't care to stay and listen to me chat about books, if you leave now, you're not going to miss anything. So, okay, so books. I actually don't have that many because I don't know. I've been stitching more than reading, I feel like. I'm still reading plenty, but so I did reread Dracula and Wuthering Heights, as I mentioned, while I was stitching on those projects, but I'm not gonna like go into it. I've read both of those a few times. Okay, so I read book 3 and 4 of a series which completed the series. And so the series is Kingdom of Lies by Stacia Stark. And this series I loved. I read all 4 of these, like not quite back to back, but pretty quick succession because I was really enjoying these. So this is a romantasy series. It's on Kindle Unlimited. And I had been looking for like a series like this to kind of like grab me after, you know, like if you're like into Sarah J Maas, like A Court of Thorns and Roses, that kind of like stuff, like you would like this series because it's not a copycat by any means, but it's just that epic romantasy, like it's a fantasy series, but there's a lot of romance, right? So this series, I saw it recommended somewhere, grabbed the first book, absolutely loved it, knew really early on, like, yes, this is that 5-star feeling, like this is what I've been looking for. So I really loved the first book. I really enjoyed the second, third, and fourth book. Like they were just as entertaining and just as fun. So I highly recommend this series. I had such a great time with it. It is on Kindle Unlimited. If you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, it's included. If not, I think it's very affordable as like an ebook if you don't have Kindle Unlimited, but it was so great. I've talked a little bit about it when I read book 1, but it's kind of like, it's not like your run-of-the-mill romantasy fantasy, but it kind of is, you know. It's like girl with special powers and you know, man who is kind of an enemy, kind of a rival, like, but they fall in love. You know, it's got all the tropes, but it just had a lot of heart, and the side characters really made the series for me because you know, if you're getting a little bored with like the main couple, like it's fine because there's these other plots going on, and there were some really wonderful characters that you got to know really well, like through the books. And it was very satisfying. I very much enjoyed it, very much. Okay. So then I read The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owens. So this was a book I kept seeing, like at Walmart or Target, like at, you know, when I would look at the books, and I kept picking it up and going like, I better not. And so finally I was like, just because I hadn't heard anything about it. So I was like, I don't know, should I get it? I don't know. And so I was like, well, let me look. And my library had it as an audiobook. So I think it was like maybe a week or two wait. Like it wasn't bad. So I was like, oh, I'll just do that. So I grabbed it from the library. So I listened to it. And this is a, it's a Greek Olympus like retelling. I was going to say Hades and Persephone, but it's not, it doesn't actually feature, there is a Persephone, but that's not like the character that's not the main female character. So, but Hades, Hades is in, but, this book was, it's a romantasy as well, which is primarily what I read if you're new here, but, this was really entertaining. It wasn't like best ever, but like I had a really good time. I was like interested. I was into it. It ends on a huge cliffhanger. But anyway, this book features, it's like set in modern day, but it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic kind of like society. It's like every man for themselves, you know? And the main character is like a thief, like pickpocket. She's in a thieving ring in San Francisco. And the gods are, they exist and they bestow favors on mortals and they are worshipped. But the gods have, every so often, they have like a competition to see like who will be like the head god. So it's Zeus, generally, but there is a competition and the gods will select a mortal to like play in their stead. And so then the mortals go and like compete to the death, or like they don't all die, but like they could die, and one is triumphant. So our main character, who I can't remember her name because I never can, she is selected to be Hades' champion, and it goes from there, right? So there are trials and tribulations. It feels a little bit like Hunger Games-esque sometimes, but it's not like a Hunger Games quite. But it's fun. It was fun. It was very good. It was very good. It wasn't like completely blown away. Like it was a little bit like predictable, but I mean, it was entertaining. It was a good time. I'm glad I didn't like spend the $20 on the book because I don't think I need to reread it, but I will read the next one, and I did enjoy it. The book is beautiful. It's got like beautiful sprayed edges, really beautiful design, but I don't own it. Okay, so then I read Off to the Races by Elsie Silver. So this is a contemporary romance, not fantasy, just romance. And Elsie Silver writes kind of like cowboy romance, but everything's set in Canada. I assume she is Canadian. Yes, she is Canadian. So these are Canadian cowboys, and I just like to point that out because it's different than like an American Southwest or Texas cowboy. Okay, like Canadian cowboys are ranchers, and they're just a little less yeehaw. So anyway, she has a very popular series that I've read the first two. It's I think the first one is Flawless, and then I get them all mixed up because it's like Flawless, Powerless, Reckless, Hopeless. Like, I don't know the order. Anyway, I've read two of them, loved them. But my friend was like, she's like, I'm going to read them. I was like, well, I already read the first two, but like, let me know when you get to the third and we'll buddy read. And she was like, well, what about like the series that happened before? And I was like, yeah, I know there's like another series, but you don't have to like read them in any order. But like, I have those two, and we could go back. So we decided to like go back to the beginning. So this is like, I think there's 3 books in this series, and it's set like before the other series, but you don't have to read them in any particular order. So anyway, that's how we ended up here. So this one, instead of like more cowboys, this is horse racing. So the main characters work on a like a farm that has these thoroughbred like $1 million horses. So anyway, this was the first book in that series, and I loved it. This is now the 3rd book I've read from this author. I have loved every everyone. They are so easy to read. I don't know what it is, like the voice, like that she writes in, so easy. Like these read really fast. They look like, you know, normal length, like normal books, but like I can just blow through them. I don't know what it is, but like something about the way she writes is just so easy to consume. And they're funny and sexy and steamy, and like they're just really good. So this is I don't need to go into like the details really, I don't think, but the main female character shows up, and she's going to be like the new horse trainer, and the guy who is like kind of running the farm, the ranch, is like a total jerk to her, like right away. So they get off on a bad foot. So they have, but he's her boss. So like they have this whole dynamic, and then they fall in love. So anyway, that was off to the races. It was really good. I really loved that one. So then I read Any Duke in a Storm by Amelie Howard. This is a historical romance. And I had, I had found the first book in this series. And it's called The Princess Stakes. And I found it for like $1.99 at like a bin store. And I was like, that sounds fun. Why not? So I grabbed it. And before I got around to reading it, I saw this one at Walmart. And this is like the fourth book in this series. So it was like $5.99. I was like, whatever, I'll get that too. And I'll get the second and third one at some point. The thing with historical romance, like, you don't have to read the series like in any particular order. Like they're all kind of like interconnected standalone books. So anyway, I read the first one and I was just very like underwhelmed. It was just very like average for me. Like it wasn't bad. It just wasn't great. It was just very like forgettable. Like I have forgotten all about it. It was just fine. So then I was like, well, I'm not going to buy the second and third. But I already have the fourth. Like someday maybe I'll get around to it. So I decided like I just wanted to get it off my shelf. I was like, I just need to get rid of this. So I decided to read this, and it was actually great. And I really, really, really loved it. The first one was fine. It just wasn't great. It was just fine. I don't know about the second and third, but I can tell you the fourth one is so great. So this is like very like, it's got that kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean kind of feel, but the cover is absolutely atrocious. This is the ugliest, most not historically accurate dress I've ever seen. But anyway, this is features so the main character, the female main character, is she's a British lady, but she's undercover. So she's posing, like she's undercover as a spy. So she's posing as a like pirate queen, and she's like pretending to like operate a smuggling ring, and she's trying to infiltrate a big smuggling ring in like Barbados and take down like this smuggling ring. And she meets this captain who just happens to be a duke, a French duke, but he's like disgraced. So he's out like doing piratey things too. So anyway, they end up having to like reluctantly team up, and it's super sexy, and it was just really fun. Like it's like a swashbuckling pirate adventure. Like it was a really, really good time. I like did not expect anything. I didn't expect it to be bad, but I just expected kind of like, like it's going to be mediocre like the other one. And turns out it was like so great. I flew through it and I had a blast. So there's that. I'm glad I finally got around to reading it. I don't know if I like care enough to like go hunt down the other two books, but if I came across them, I would pick them up. My library doesn't have them. I've looked. Okay, so then I read Mile High by Liz Tom Ford. I checked this out as an audiobook from my library. So this is a series. It's on Kindle Unlimited. I think there's 4 books in the series. And I've heard for over a year, I've heard how good it is. It's like, you know, that it's really, really great. And so I've been meaning to get to it. And I saw that my library has the first 2 on audio. And I thought, okay, well, I'll do that. And then the 3rd and 4th, like I can read on Kindle Unlimited. So this is a contemporary sports romance. So this one, I think they each like center around different sports. I think one will be basketball, one will be baseball, but this one is hockey. So it's like an NHL hockey team, and the main female character is a flight stewardess, and she is hired to like attend to the players and staff on their flights to games. So instead of like having different crew come in, they just hire like this one crew and like contract them to do like the whole season with the team. So she like gets on the flight and is like ready to go, and these like big hockey players start like filling up, and she has this like connection with one of them. And they get off to like a really like not good start. So they have this very antagonistic relationship. And he's like needling at her, but like there's some sparks, there's some chemistry. So they end up, you know, like fraternization is strictly forbidden. So they end up with this like kind of forbidden like affair going on, and then they catch feelings and etc. So I had a good time with this. It was the pacing was weird on this one, just because like by the 50% mark, very mild spoiler, by the 50% mark, like they're together and like getting like admitting to feelings and like admitting and talking and like, let's do this. So then you're like, so is this the end of the book? Like, how is there 50% of this book left? So it's just it's a little bit weird, because like you don't have that drawn out, like, you know, like them trying to get into a relationship, like, because at 50%, like they're in a relationship. So it's like, now what? So, that was a weird pacing issue. And I have seen people have complained about this series that they do enjoy it, but they're like, these books are too long. Like they're 600 something pages. And they're like, these books need to be like under 400 pages. There's just no reason they need to be this long. And so I do agree. Like the pacing was a little bit odd because it was so long, and the plot beats were just at weird intervals. It was still good. It's still written really well. I still enjoyed it. I still stuck with it, but I definitely remember being like, okay, how is there 50% of this book left? Like what? So yeah, that was the only thing, but I have heard that the second book is better. Like some people, like a lot of people are like, the first book's like fine, and then they get good. So I don't know. I'm gonna, the loan just came through on the second one. So I'm definitely going to continue the series, and I did really, really enjoy it. It was a good time. All right. One book left. So I read The Magician's Daughter by H.G. Perry. This is a fantasy book. It is not a romance. It's a fantasy novel, and it is, it's an adult fantasy, but it does have like a younger protagonist. So it does have a little bit of a YA feel to it. The protagonist is, I think she's like 16, but it is categorized as an adult fantasy novel. But this was so great. This was very cozy and whimsical. So it features, it's set in like, I would say maybe like a Victorian era. I don't know if we get like the exact date on this at all, but it's set. I don't know. It felt Victorian to me. But this young woman, she washes up on the shore of this island. There's a man living there. He is a magician. He is living there with his familiar, who can take different forms, but is primarily in the form of a rabbit. So he finds this baby and is like, I guess I'm raising this baby. So they're on this like hidden, secluded island. No one can find it. It's hidden by magic. And so she is raised. She does not have magic, but she is raised with magic. And so it's very cute and charming and whimsical. Something happens where she ends up having to leave the island because like evil magical forces are at play. So she ends up traveling to London. She gets into some trouble, and then her magician father, like adopted father, he ends up getting into a lot of trouble, and she has to go try to save him. So it's like this story about that. It was although there are some high stakes, like there were definitely moments where people's lives are at risk, there are very dark, evil forces, it still felt like so cozy. So this is, to me, was like a cozy fantasy. Even though there were real stakes, it just felt cozy and whimsy. It was very, very, very charming. I had a great time with this. I really went in just kind of thinking it'll probably be pretty good. And I was like riveted. I was sat. I was invested. This reads like very like it was very easy to visualize everything. Like it felt like a movie to me. Like this is a movie I would watch for sure if they wanted to make this into a movie. But yeah, I mean, it was great. I went in kind of thinking it's going to be pretty good. It's going to be fine. I'm going to like it, but I didn't expect that I would like very, very, very much enjoy it. So, I had a great time with this one. So that's it. That's all the stuff I read. All right. I'm going to wrap it up. I'll see you guys next time.